Hey y'all, it's Sarah. This is what we're working on today. I am trying to finish out my month of January and keep myself ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this tier tray look today. And if you've been following any of the January stuff, you know I am doing it with this Dollar Tree stencil. And the goal of this has been to show lots of different ways to get use out of a single stencil, even when you're not using it for the images that are on there. Let me grab my little sheet here and show you. This is what these look like. They're cute, but they're pretty basic, and we're just taking the ideas and expanding on them and changing them and kind of making it our own. You can kind of see with some of my other January spreads that I have used it in a lot of different ways. So today is going to be a tier tray. If you haven't noticed, I've been trying to change my trackers around at the bottom and find what's going to be most useful for me this year. So I'm steadily kind of playing with that idea, that notion of how to get the trackers most useful to me. So I might show a few of those little ideas, but I want to get started because the tier tray, obviously, it's got a lot of components to it. You can see there. This one's a pretty good size. Let me grab my ruler and I'm going to tell you. I do everything in the big Happy Planner. So if you're working in a classic, this will still fit. It's overall all the way down to the branches. This is about a 4-inch little piece. Let's go ahead and jump into this because I'm kind of excited. So the first thing I want to address on here is, if you look, my planner came printed, and I've already addressed this with another piece that was also printed on here and trying to cover it up. And that one was actually, that one was these tropical leaves up here. And I showed a photo of this on one of the Happy Planner groups that I play around in, and I wanted to share what I did to change this leopard print. Not that I don't love the leopard print, it's just it didn't really fit for what I was playing with. And that's probably going to be the first thing I want to go ahead and knock out today because it was such an easy fix. So I'm coming in here. You're going to see me use this one one more time, but I want to start with some circles. Whatever it takes for you to do your circles. You don't have to have a stencil like this. We all have, probably as planner people, maybe some of these flimsy planner stencils. They usually have some kind of circle on it. Look at your other things. This one has a sun up there. Just try to look around and see your materials a little bit differently. This one was so simple. Let's get a little closer so you can see what I'm actually doing, and then I'm going to pull these pages out and start putting my trackers in so we can start our doodles. Hopefully that's close enough for you to see what I'm doing here. So on my little stencils, I just came in and wherever these little shapes were, I tried to fit the circle that was closest to that size around it. Maybe you can see that. Hopefully I can get it to stay focused where it needs to stay focused. But this is about the closest size circle. There might be a little bit of ink on the outside of the circle, but for the most part it fits in there. I'm just taking, you guys know me, I am a super big fan of these cheap clip click pens from Dollar Tree. There's like 8 of these in a pack. That's what I'm using. I like this pen because the ink width and color blend really well with the grid lines that are already in my planner. And this pen is never going to bleed on me through the other side. So I did that with all of them. You can see I'm trying to somewhat get them in that circle. So the first thing I did was just come in and go around them. As simple as that. And I'm switching sizes. I feel like the circle might match that a little better. Going back down a size. And there's some white in there too. Don't worry, leave the white in there because that's going to help it look like highlights and lowlights to my little winter berries. And now it gets fun trying to get these smaller ones here. I'm going to try to get in here around these smaller ones. You can see that. This one's really pushing it because it's right around the smaller one here. So even these little bitty spots that weren't circles at all, I went ahead and circled those too. I'm already using a blue color because it worked with the colors that were in this particular planner for January. So I'm already using a blue color. At this stage, I could leave these just like they are. It'd be fun. And they almost look like bubbles if you wanted bubbles. The next thing I did was go in and draw maybe a couple lines to look like they're on a stem. Okay, there we go. You could leave it at that and call it good. I'm going to take it a step further and make it look like, almost like blueberries, I guess, the little things that come off of blueberries. So right here, let's see if I can get it to focus correctly. I just did like a little something, just like that, almost like a little star pattern. Maybe on this white section you can see that. Just like that in a few spots. I even come off the edge of that circle some. This works especially well if you've got some spots that didn't align within your circle. You can see that. So some spots that didn't necessarily fit in the circle that I used. Now they're blending. And I don't even know that I'm necessarily going to do all of them. That was simple enough. There you go. You've got the start of some berries. There's some highlight, some low light. And if you wanted to try to blend in even a little better, since this color is not exactly the colors that I'm using, and these colors are not exactly the same, I'm just taking this blue. It's the same blue I've been using all of January. And just going to add a little bit in there to a couple of them. Not even a lot, just one little speck. You see that? Not much, just a little something. Now that same color that I've been using everywhere else is going to blend in. I might, if I've got a couple spots where there's enough room there, I just did like a little kind of dot right in the middle of there. Just a little scribbly dot right in the middle of those little berry openings that I put in. And now we've got berries that look like they've been watercolored. They look like they've got a little highlight, a little low light, a little something. It's a little better for me than the leopard print. I feel like these kind of winter berries certainly will blend a whole lot more than the leopard print for going this route. So the next thing I typically do is mark out where I'm going to put in my trackers. And like I said, by trackers, I've been playing with a couple different concepts. I know that I like the dinner tracker for sure. That's something I've always kept. I've always kept the weather tracker. I usually will try to throw some hydration reminders in there somewhere. Even if I don't mark them, it's still a reminder for me every day. And a lot of times it's random and I will just work it into my page. This time I've actually designated its spot. That one's pretty simple and I'll try to show it. But in order to do this, I'm going to go ahead and take these pages out because it just makes it easier for me to get the lines across here really smoothly. I run into problems with my rings there trying to work around those. Now, this next step, I've already had questions about this, and honestly, I've been asked more than once on this one. So, with my highlighters and the ruler, or with my marker and a ruler, I have been asked, am I ruining the tips of my markers? I am going to tell you that, for one, I am using this simply as a guide. I am not pushing that tip. We're not pushing that tip so far into there that you're wanting to cut into the edge of your marker. You just kind of want to rest against it with your marker so that you're making one quick smooth motion. If you're getting marks, you might be pushing up against this thing a little too hard if it's damaging the tip. I'm going to tell you personally, now I can do it with a brush marker tip, you know, this type of tip. However, I do tend to have a little more bleed under my ruler when I do. So I prefer personally to use some kind of chisel tip. I've been using the same one, this one, and let me find it. Both of these are generics. You can see, we know what they're supposed to be generics of, but they are generics. I've been using both of these all month to do the different lines. No problems with them. I have only ever encountered a problem with one set of marker tips, and I don't even want to say it out loud and who it was, because it's a name brand that people really love, and the tips crumbled. But I think that was a flaw with that particular set, because I'm doing it with all my other ones. It's not a big deal. And I switch colors every month. I switch colors sometimes weekly. This is the first time I think I've used the same color scheme for the entire month. But I switch colors so often, I'm not doing this enough to any one marker to really damage it. But that being said, if it is a concern for you, if it is a major concern for you, try just using maybe a decent little sheet of cardstock. This is just regular weight cardstock as your straight edge or your guide. And if you're not comfortable with that, maybe some washi tape to mask it off. I have several rolls of washi tape around here. I'm going to tell you, they're old as can be. And you can see, like, this one doesn't even want to stick to itself anymore. They're pretty old. They're not super sticky, and it makes them great for masking things off on my planner without actually, some of the tape can be a little strong, and when you go to peel it up, you might peel some of your paper up. I've just been using some really old, cheap version, and you can see it's not super sticky, but it's just sticky enough to mask things off. If you wanted to do that, mask the whole thing off. I've gotten pretty comfortable with the way I'm doing it, but I did want to kind of clarify those things because I've been asked on more than one occasion, kind of concerns, and I understand that, but honestly, as much as I've been doing this, as long as you're not like pushing this tip way up against that ruler, a lot of times there are rulers, if you look at them, one side of your ruler may be thinner. The edge might be a little thinner, and then the other side is a little more blunt. So look at that as well. That might be a better way to do it. Choose the side that you are not going to have as much problem with. So what I usually do here is I'm bringing in a ruler. If you're not super confident, mask off here and here. I'm not even doing that anymore. If I go out of the lines, then I go out of the lines. I'm not sweating it. I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing it. I did start out masking those two grid lines end to end. So when you do this, you want to get that chisel tip flat. And you kind of want to do this in one smooth motion. As a matter of fact, I will show you with the masking tape, because I want to show the one thing that I find is most important when you're masking it off, if you want the best results. So I don't even really need to mask this end, but I'm going to. I'm just going to show it. I don't want to leave too much information out because some people are starting from the very, very beginning, playing with a happy planner and are probably terrified that they're going to ruin it, because that's always been my big fear. So I have masked it off. Here is a big trick. This is driving me nuts. It drove me nuts the last time I used this one, and every time I've used it, the lid will not stay on that. Okay, so depending on what size you need it, go ahead and measure that out. Get it lined up. When you start this mark, start it on the washi tape, right? So that ink is already in its, your pressure and the ink is already both kind of working together with one another. So start on the tape and just go down. And you can see, you just get a really crisp, clean line. I'm going to do this for all of mine. I'll do it for my weather. And I'm not even sure that I'm putting in as many this time. I'm not going to mask it right now. You guys saw me do that. I do know I want the space for dinner and hydration. The other ones, I feel a little more uncomfortable putting that, the mood and those things. Since I do share my planner stuff now, which is a little weird. I feel like maybe I might need a separate planner for those kind of things. Or a separate way to track those kind of things. Because I don't know that I want to share that publicly all the time. So there's at least 2 places for me. I've got my hydration, I've got my dinner. I'm going to put my weather in, and then we're going to come back and start talking about the tier tray. And because I repeat elements, I'm only going to show the tier tray in its completion. I'll repeat those elements around my page and then show you some ways, because I've been asked about my boxes. Since I don't use any stickers at all, I get asked about my boxes and my other little accessories. So we'll try to knock a few of those out this time around. Let me get these lines here. Now that my lines are all here, I can get started on the tier tray part. I love the tier trays. I'm a big fan of... Whoops. Just dropped all my pens in a cup. I love tier trays in real life. This is a really fun way because you can reuse this idea and just add new things to it. And I might consider doing that this year, like one spread a month, just doing like a themed tier tray for it. That could be a cute idea to run with and kind of keep consistent all year. If you've been paying any attention to me, I tend to lean most of my doodles to a couple of places. One is kind of this weekend column, because I know I don't usually have as much on the weekends typically to jot down. For certain, there's usually room over here. I might do both sides and change my tray up a little bit. But to show you guys, I'm going to set this to the side so I've got some room to maneuver here. And I think that I am just going to stick to what works for me and go right over here with my tier tray. And I'm actually, this makes it easy. I'm using the grid line to line up this apron section. And let me show you what that looks like. That's all it is. It's just this little apron right here. And for a change, I'm coming in and starting with pencil so that I don't terrify anybody. Going straight in with pen, because that does get a little scary. I'm going to show you with pencil, and then I'll go back in and make the lines a little darker with my ink pen, because I'm going to be layering things into this tier tray. So we're going to have to get really close, because you're only tracing out certain parts, obviously, of this apron. Let's hope this is close enough. I'm just going to align it right about there, using my grid lines a little bit. So this bottom section, I'm going to come up part of the way into this curve. Just about like that. And I'm going to mark right up here. Maybe you can see that right at this little curve here. And kind of mark it out. And that's what you're going to see. Doesn't look like much yet. So my next step is going to be to fill in this tray area. Now, the way I did this, you can see there. See the pot lid that comes on this stencil? I'm almost lining it where that bottom part was. And I'm going to come in and try to do kind of the same thing. We're gonna clean that up a little bit as we get further into it. But this is my guidelines. Same thing with your top tray. So this bottom that I came to, I want to make sure that it's coming across pretty straight. I don't know. I don't really need that curve. I'm just going to come across just like this. Look, I'm lining the edge of this stencil up here on one of these grids just so I know that that top part of my tier tray doesn't get all lopsided. And I'm just going to give myself a little line. Now, I could curve this out if I really wanted to and make it look a little more round. But the idea still kind of works once we get it all together. So that's where I stand right now. I'll do the same thing above it and try to line on the grid so I can get some evenness, a little bit of evenness. And this is all we have right now at this moment. My next step is to come in and eyeball kind of where the center of my tier tray is going to be. And if you're someone that can't eyeball, grab your ruler. I don't know how wide this is. Oops, let me find the right end of this thing. There's so many little squares, it's so hard to see. Okay, so it's about 2 inches wide, 2 1/4. I'm going to come right there. That's about my middle point. And to do that, all I did was just put a couple lines. So I'm still using my grid here. And depending on how far you want to come up, if you want the handle at the top of your tray, come up a little higher. I'm putting the handle on mine. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of width. Let me line to my grid so I know that I'm getting things kind of straight. That might not always be accurate for me. I can't do a straight line to save my life. So this is what we're looking at. Hopefully you can see that. It's pretty simple. It doesn't look like much, but when we start adding the accessories and filling this thing in, it definitely turns into a tier tray concept. Now I can start thinking about where I want to put things in it. Now I can start adding my accessories. And I'm using, let's bring this in and look at what I've got on this one. I throw a lot of stuff in that tier tray. I don't know if you can tell, there's a lot of stuff thrown on there. I just squished everything in wherever I could fit it. And I added to it as I went and decided, oh, it needs a little bit more. But here's a pretty good start for you. At this scale, this right here, this little teapot fits pretty darn good. It lines up. It fits underneath the 2 trays. So I'm going to put it down here at the bottom. And I'm just roughing this out because my details usually come when I add the pen. But this gives me a basic. Now, I'm not a huge fan of how the teapot looks on its own. Where's my little sample? Not a big fan. I'm going to alter it a little bit. And to do that, first of all, I'm bringing my handle over so it actually touches. And I feel like right about there. So I'm bringing that handle in where it actually touches. That's where it's at right now. Still not super spiffy to me. I am going to come with this little section of this jar and use it right about there. This is a good way to do it. If you where the little nub right here, the little knob for the top of this teapot comes, line that straight part of your jar up and come across there. And if you notice, I'll look real closely there. I came out a little bit, and when I go to draw that with my pen, I'm going to come out a little bit and erase that little section. So there's my little teapot. Now I can start trying to look at rounding this out. My edges were really not all that noticeable, considering that I threw the greenery in there, and that helped a lot. Let's see if I can smooth that out. That's all I did. I just connected those two just a little bit. What else did I throw in here? I used, grab your little rolling pin right there, and you can make yourself a cup. Probably right about there. I might bring it down a little bit further. So a line down. I scooted over some because I got things a little tight right there. Bring down those two lines. Bring over this curved section right there. And we've got ourselves one little cup, container, whatever that's going to be. I put marshmallows in mine for this one. I just freehanded some marshmallows in there on my example, and that was pretty simple. So now you're starting to see it come together. On the top section, what am I going to do? Let me throw some different ideas, some sample ideas. So I'm going to take this spatula. I think this spatula will work. I'm going to bring this spatula up here and bring it down, curve it over. Got the start of a cup. You can make that cup more dimensional if you turn that spatula right upside down and take this right back to that top. Just like that. Now you've got some dimension on that cup. If you want to take that cup a little further, you can come back in with the handle from your teapot. Bring it in some so it touches into your cup. I don't think I put a handle on my first cup, but you could always put a handle on there if you want to. Just doing that. The next thing that I want to add is, I think I'm going to take this little section right here. Guys, this little bottom section of this chopping board. And because of my alignment, this works out perfect. I have the grid is lining me up down there. The straight edge of this jar is lining me up here. I'm going to move this over because I'm trying to make this go into the background. And I just traced around that a little bit. Now I'm going to drop it down. Did you see? Can you see through there? I'm dropping it down a little bit so I can get this, the inside frame of this little frame piece. And tracing it a little smaller inside. I think that works. So these are the basics. I actually, now that I've got this piece of artwork on there, I do believe I want to bring my center portion here. I think I want to bring it up into this other square. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Let's pull that up some. Pull that up some. And I gave it a little more height. I felt like it needed to come up a hair. So right about here, do you see this little shape right here? At the end of this chopping board, I'm gonna come right up here, trace part of it, and then flip it over, realign it, because I can't do circles and ovals super smooth, so that just helped. And if you're worried about trying to do the inside portion, you could use this little round part right here from the lid of your kitchen pot. And do the same thing, flip it around so that you get those a little bit smoother, rounder, oval type shapes, whatever you want to call those. I can't do round, I can't do straight lines, I can't do any of those kind of on my own. So that part is established. This is where we're at now. Now I can really fill things in. One of the things that I added to stick off mine, because I don't know, you see it on tier trays, is a rolling pin. I added the mittens, or the oven mitts, or on here I basically have been using them like mittens. So I'm going to come right about here and just have these poking out of my tier tray. You could make whatever other of these components stick out, because I've been using these different elements in different ways. You can throw this to make it, to have a little continuity of color, because the oven mitts is where I brought my color into this. To kind of have that, I think I'm going to try to make one stick out here at the top, just a bit. That should work. This is where what I used to bring my color in, so I figured I needed something with a little color to keep this this blue color scheme I've got going on. Now I'm going to come in with my rolling pin. I want to make it stick out off the tray some. Maybe about to there. I feel like that's pretty good. We're really only going to see the one end of it. So I'm taking this rolling pin, and if you watched me do the rolling pins already, what I did is I used this end to get the initial shape. Now this little section right here, I'm bringing back over to that end to close these things off and still remain smooth and even right there. So I close that off, and while I'm here, I don't know, I just like this as a little design element on my rolling pins where I add that. But you know what? I don't think I'm going to use it. I think I'm just going to have a brown rolling pin this time, just a wood rolling pin. So I'm not even going to use it, but I showed it to you. I've done it on one of the other ones. So I've got a pretty good start here. There's a couple other things that I will likely add into this. And I want to look at this because I feel like at my angle, I do think that there might be some rolling pin that should show a little back here. So just for visual continuity, I'm going to finish that out. It looks like that'd be about all of it that you would see. So that's where we're at right now. And now you can see there's a tier tray there. Like, it's starting to look like something. And don't worry if you can't get any of these edges super great. Use your greenery. Use the greenery that I showed you as a filler to fill that in. So now that this is there, I can start coming in with a pen. This is where it gets fun to me. This is where it starts to come to life. And this is where I'll start thinking about what accessories to add in. So to do that, I'm just going to bring my favorite little cheap click pen in. My little Dollar Tree ballpoint pens. The great thing about these is when I go to start coloring, this is one of the things I like about these. These don't smear when the markers hit them. So I'm just going to use the same elements that I did to pencil this in to start drawing in those main components. And now is where you can kind of start to clean things up. My pencil lines were not fantastic. That was fine. I didn't have to have them fantastic. I just needed them in place. You can do it this way with tracing out, continuing to trace out, reusing your stencil. Although I tend to come in and start doing a little of it freehand. If my lines are a little crooked and scratchy, it's okay. I want you to see that my lines are a little crooked and scratchy on here as well. I think that gives a little character. So that's how I tend to do that, is to try to come in and do my very best. Right about here, I'm going to start looking at this. You could just leave this thing straight. The center support, you could leave it straight. I'm not going to. Here is what I'm going to do. So I did a little circle there somewhere, or a oval, or a, I don't know, I can't draw a full circle, but it's close enough. I'm doing that. Ooh, oh my mercy, I just went into a sneezing fit. Sorry, guys. So these aren't great circles. They're close enough for me. I might do it down here, maybe one right around there. And then, if you're scared to do this, there are some curved parts on here that you can use. So right here, this pot, it's got a very gentle curve. I really like the gentle curve on this. Let me show you what I did. I lined it up. It's going to come just outside your little, your pencil marks. So now we're going to have like a little bit more curve in our post there. A little bit more of a design to it, or make it an element of its own. Instead of just a straight line. But honestly, if you didn't want to do the extra, you could have left it as a straight line. I'll probably add the same details up here, or something similar. And just do the same thing. Use that gentle curve. If you're not comfortable with making curved lines, I'm not super comfortable sometimes. It just depends. If I was doing this on my own, the example I just showed you, I freehanded that part and just did it on my own. In that kind of scratchy look. But since I'm showing you guys, until you have your own comfort zone, this is a good way to do it. And literally, I'm scratching down it. I kind of want to make that look a little thicker. I feel like I want a few more design elements here. Let's spiffy it up a little. I'm just adding a little more. Because why not? I think I want to add, I don't know, I tend to do things in odd numbers, so in threes there. Just going to use my straight edge to scratch along here. The bottom and the top. And now we've got a pretty decent start to a tier tray. Right here, I'll come in and do it this way since, like I said, I'm not always super confident in drawing ovals. I end up with, ooh, they go a little cattywampus on me sometimes. So I did the outer portion. I'm probably going to freehand this inner portion. And I'm going a little wider. I went just a hair wider than the tip that I used on there. And if you notice, there is some scratchiness to the lines. See that? I enjoy that look. I like that it gives me, I don't know, it gives a little more detail. So I scratched a little bit. I'm dragging this pencil or this pen down that side just a hair. So it's not laying down the ink as heavy. That's why I like this pen. It almost allows you to do a lot of things that you typically do with pencils and changing the pressure. There we go. There's the start of a cute little tier tray. You could use it for everything, honestly. Really, I think it could be used for all seasons. You could use it as your one continuous design element for the year if you wanted to, and just change it out. So you can see here, I'm actually just trying to outline all my pencil now. If this makes you nervous, just go back in and use your stencil and do this same thing. We're outlining everything with ink now. So right here, I don't know, this feels like it needs something. So I just did a little loop around there. This was one of the things I wanted to show on my little teapot. So where I came out of that line right there, I just did like a itty bitty tiny letter C. I am cheating and using this part right here because otherwise it's a curve. I might not hold into that curve very well if I don't. And I don't want it to be lopsided. And it's still maybe a little lopsided, I don't know. The other parts of this, I don't mind trying to just freehand over. So I came in a little bit when I did that, the knob. I just brought that line in just a hair. And there is no rule saying you have to do it exactly like me, but I'm giving you the ideas that make things look detailed without really knowing what you're doing. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just know at the end I kind of get there. Or I at least get close to the vision I had. Sometimes it turns out better than what I had in mind. Sometimes not. So all of these components, I'm going to go ahead and outline. I don't think there's any any real question on how to outline the rest of these, we've already got them penciled in. So I'm going to go ahead and outline those and then talk about adding even more detail. Okay, there we go. Look, it looks like a tier tray. Now it's getting exciting. Now I can start thinking about adding color, adding some shading, some details. I'm just trying to erase my pencil. This is the reason why I don't use pencil very often, because I really have a hard time. I still know where the pencil marks are. No matter how well I try to erase it, I will erase until I start erasing ink off. And it really, I have lots of styles of eraser. I have the gum erasers. I have all the strange erasers. All of these choices. For some reason, even when I do it lightly, this paper really likes pencil. And see, look, I have done erased until I lightened the ink line there. But I think I got most of them off. Anything else that's remaining there is going to blend into the artwork to begin with. All right. Now is where it gets fun. At this stage, I personally, because I like to put a lot of ink on things, at this stage, look, I'm just going to round that out right there on that edge so it looks like it goes all the way around. At this stage, I would start adding some color so it has time to dry and I can get lots of color applied. And I think I'm gonna decorate my little mitts here. So I'm taking this rounded part of this kitchen pot, and I'm making a line. I'm gonna throw some snowflakes on these little mittens, and whatever little doodads come to mind, I'll throw on there. But I want to get this part in pen so I don't forget that I really wanted to do that. And this is where I'm going to start adding details. On this little cup down here, I'm going to add some marshmallows. So literally, I just came up and kind of did some itty bitty teeny tiny squares in there. You don't have to, don't put too much effort into that. Honest to goodness, don't put a lot of effort in that. You're just getting the idea. See, nothing major. Just itty bitty tiny squares. That's all I'm going to put there. Let's start applying a little bit of marker. You use whatever colors you want to use, whatever color is working for your page, for your color scheme. Use whatever. I am using the same blue that I've been using this whole month. I'm keeping with that trend. Oh, you know what? I do want to throw some details in really quick. Before I do that, I want to throw some things in there. So, let's throw a couple details in there. I'm just going to come in with my little straight edge here. I think I want to add a straw. Maybe right about here. I don't know. It's another place to put a little color, I think. So, yep, I drew it right through the cup because it's an afterthought. It's okay. I'm going to show you. It'll blend it right in. So, it's drawn in with the cup. It's okay. And I just did the tiniest of little circles right there. Where it blended in with that cup, I'm going to make sure that my stripes of my straw work with that line. There you go. Now you have no clue. It was an afterthought. A couple other things I want to throw on here. So let me go ahead and do that. This fork looking thing right here. Can you see the little fork? I'm going to pop it right about there. However whatever angle you want to throw it out there at. Come up and trace it. Can you see that? So we're basically going to do like a letter C right there. A letter C that goes into right there. Bring this straight edge over here again for myself, because I know how much I don't trust me to get a straight edge. And just 2 lines down there. Now I've got a little cinnamon stick sticking out. I might actually do 2 of them. I'm going to keep it pretty close to my example that I made, because I shoved a lot of elements on there. At this point, I'm just doing like a little tiny portion, just like that. My letter C looking thing, and my other letter C looking thing, and my straight edge. Now, I also threw, oops. See, look, guys, I just made a mistake. Don't worry about it. I'm not sweating it. I'm not freaking out. It did not ruin the entire thing. It is totally cool. It'll be fine. I do feel like I'm looking at this rolling pin. And gosh, for some reason, I feel like I'd want to be able to see the other end of this, but I guess not. It goes underneath there, so I guess not. I guess I'm not seeing that. So now you can come in, throw your elements all over the place. I'm throwing them everywhere. Look, I'm putting them all over the place, because they're so simple to make. Letter C. Another letter C. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably so many better ways to draw cinnamon, but this works for me. Just trying to make sure the tips of those are noticeable enough to be curved. Look how cute this thing is turning out to be. So I know that I want to shove some things under here. I want my tray to look like it's full. Like I want my tier tray to look pretty full in there. I'm going to come in with some kind of circle. I don't think that there is a circle on here. You know what? Yes, there is. There is a way that I can show you how to do this, still using this stencil. At least right here in this point, I'm going to bring the handle to my teapot down here somewhere. Give myself a little curve. That's it. You just need just a little curve. And in the most jaggedy way possible. You see those lines? They're crooked. Try to get you a little closer. Sorry, we're a little shaky in that process. So I just kind of drug that pen across there a little jaggedy. I'm going to do it again too and skip some, did it like a dash almost. And where I did that dash, oh, the center of this would probably be right about here. I just did a little, I don't know what you would call that. I don't know what that shape is. It's almost like a diamond. It's like a, I don't know, like a convex diamond type shape. Sometimes it's hard to explain other than, hey, put this little squiggly thing here. And I'm just bringing some lines down to that center point. Don't get too lost in the details on that. It's just a small detail that we're adding. So while I'm in this area and already in the mood to do the little squiggly lines, I'm just dragging that pen right around there. This is where my shakiness that I work so hard to keep straight, this is where it actually benefits me. So maybe a little jaggedy spot there. and probably even one down here where it curves. Maybe even up the little spout. It is so hard for my brain to stay quiet right now because while I'm working on this, it just wants to sing I'm a Little Teapot. So wherever you want to add those, just throw them in. No, there is literally nothing, there is nothing special about doing those. Just put some ink there. Let it be crooked. I am putting the lightest weight on this pen. So instead of holding it down here where I end up putting more pressure, I'm holding it further up here where I'm automatically putting less pressure. I might do the same thing over here with my rolling pin. I'm going to let that shakiness really hit down. I'm going to let that shakiness, I'm still not putting much pressure. My fingers are at the higher point of my pen while I'm trying not to click it because I do that often. You could do it to your cup handles. So right around here, the major, just a little bitty. Same thing. Where else we might want to do it? Maybe right at the bottom of this cup. Just drag a little bit down. Can you see? It's nothing hard, nothing difficult. I didn't put too much thought in it. I just thought about close to the edges. And that tends to be enough detail for me. As a matter of fact, though, while I'm doing edges and details, this little cup right here, I don't know, I feel like I want to add another rim to it. So I think I'm going to. I'm taking the curve of this jar that's super handy, lining it up. Oh no, what did I use? I used a spatula to make that. So maybe I should use the spatula to make the inner rim. I'm just lining it up a hair lower. And when I say a hair, I mean, it almost looks like I'm back on that line. I'm just not. Okay, so I gave my cup a little bit of a rim. I think we're getting pretty good. Now I can start throwing some color on there. I just wanted to get those in because sometimes it's harder to get the pen to go over the marker once the marker is applied. The pen gets a little more, it doesn't slide as well. So let's start getting some color here. I'm going to do my blue. You guys know that it's all about keeping the strokes from really overlapping too much. You don't want to scratch color. We're not scratch coloring here. And look at this. I want you to look. It's not fully colored in. I missed some spots. Just trying to get in there. And keep that even motion. It's okay. Those little places end up working to your benefit. They start to look like highlights, lowlights, and honestly, that's part of what contributes to it looking like watercolor art. Looky there. I got out of line and got on my picture frame, and guess what? It's okay. So that's really all the color that I will be using. I do feel like, somewhere in here would be the end of my mitten, the little fluffy side of my mitten. I'm putting greenery in there, but either which way, so I know, I just did some little jaggedy dots there so I would kind of know where the end of my mitten would start, and I can start pulling my greenery down. I'm coming in with this generic, look, it doesn't have a name on it. I've got a couple sets like this, and they're all different. They came from different companies. They don't have names on them. But it's like a really neutral beige. I love the tips on these. These are very similar to the Zayar Flexi tips. That tip is so precision. Not that I use it precisionally, but it is precision. So I'm getting my first layers of colors on. I don't sweat it too much when I get out of the lines. I'm going to come in with my rolling. I'm doing my entire rolling pin in this color.
I finally got close enough to hit you after not getting looped on a rock.
And you can see I'm using strokes sometimes that overlap. But I'm trying not to overlap them very much. Like, I don't want to scratch over them. These markers I have a lot of luck with because this is such a pale, pale color. But I'm just getting the color down. Not even anything spectacular. I'm just getting some color on there. I think I want to make my straw blue, probably. There's a little more color. I just used the finer tip and got a little color on there. No big deal. So the next thing I'm going to do is bring in something in the yellow shades. Don't get too hung up on the colors I use. I will show them to you or try to tell them if there's a name to them, but a lot of times I'm using generics. I do know that Mild Liner actually has a color pretty similar to this blue. So this is a number 30 in brush markers, and from what I've seen, all of those pretty much act the same. They all behave the same as far as color goes. If the number from one brand is really pretty similar to the next. So I've got that color laid down. I will come in with some kind of brown. And I'm going to say probably that same color, that same yellowy color. I don't know. These are close enough. Some kind of brown. This one is number 48. Let me swatch it and make sure I'm not lying to you that this is the brown I want to use. I don't know. I feel like maybe a little bit redder version. This one looks like it's got a little bit more red undertone. So 46. We'll use that one. I don't know. Sometimes I wing it. Now, notice that I didn't go all the way up on this. I started at the bottom where it's going to be the darkest against things. And I did not even do that in super smooth, even strokes. I'm going to come back in with this lighter and go up there some. Oh, that is a little yellowy. I might have to blend a little more, but I'm going to have to wait now to blend that. Still not bad. I have to wait now to blend that because there's an awful lot of color sitting there. Using this, I don't know, I'm just going to do it this way. Using the same number 46, this reddish brown, I might come in with the fine tip. Do a few little brush strokes really right there. Now that thing's had a little bit of time to dry. Brought that same light yellow up and just pulled that color up a little bit. And now I've kind of got this dried orange look going on. There's a couple of things that I can do now to start bringing in some other details. I'm coming back in with my pen. Now, remember, I'm holding this pen a little further up, so I can't put as much pressure as when I've got like a major grip down here at the end. I've got less pressure when I hold it closer to the top. So I'm dragging it across here, and you can see it barely wants to, it skips and it drags. And I'm dragging some lines across here. And I want it to skip probably more than not. And I'm almost doing like long, stretched out, swirly circles. Just drag those around. Now I've got a little bit of wood grain going here. You can see that again. Don't put too much thought into it because wood grain shouldn't be even. So literally I dragged that color across. I let it skip. It worked. The less pressure I put on there, the better that worked out. And drag across. If you go too crazy with it, there's always ways to touch that up. I mean, I'm keeping in mind this white color, and it's almost going to lean gray by the time I'm done. But if you take it too far and you don't drag them out very well, bring a white color pencil in, bring a white pen in, run over those a little bit and lighten them up if you're still struggling to get some of that pressure change there. So this right here, we're going to try. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure what marker it's going to take to accomplish this, because on my practice run, obviously I did it in an art notebook. But I have not done a whole lot of super dark black art on any of my spreader pages. So I'm about to test this out so you guys can decide if it's worth trying or risking. I am using a dark gray, it looks like. The cap looks almost black. I can assure you it is not black though. This is a dark gray. And I'm going to have to layer it several times probably to get down in that black range like I did on my other one. And I may even have to come in with a black pen and try to fill that in. A black pen that I know is safe. I have not practiced coloring something completely solid, something large. Let's see how that gray did. Oh, the gray did good. That's a pretty dark gray. It did really well. So let's talk about the amount of time I've given this. You see, I have not paused at any point in here. Now I can start coming in and layering over some of these colors. I'm going to see if this color will help blend this out. There we go, that helps. So back to this one, I'm coming back over to my rolling pin. And just right around there, I threw a little more color. Right around this edge, where it touches to my teapot, throw a little more color. Maybe over here where it might have a little more shadow because everything else is lined up around it. Not the whole thing. Look, I'm leaving parts of it. I'm not putting too much thought into that because the more I put thought into that, the worse I usually make things. So I just get close to the areas where there might need to be shadow. Throwing a little more color up there. While I'm at it and talking about the wood grain stuff, let's do the wood grain here on this frame. Let's do the same thing. It's a little harder to do. It's pretty narrow, but I'm just throwing just a few lines in there. Oh, we're getting somewhere. So while all this marker is drying, I'm going to start throwing some greenery in here. I've already done this greenery on the other videos, so you guys are pretty familiar. Ooh, I came a little far out with that one. I am overlapping. It's okay. throw a little extra fluffy in there. So there's a little greenery sticking out here. I don't know, I feel like I want some hanging out down here. I might stick a piece that goes all the way across and maybe hang some pieces down right along this front section. I don't know, I'm just throwing it in here. I think I might have went a little long with it. No, I think it's okay. It looks about the same length there. Close enough for me. Maybe throw a few other sprigs down here. Look, I'm just going to drag one down off of that. And maybe pop one up from there. I don't know. I feel like the greenery is like garlic. I never measure garlic. I do that with my soul. So, little greenery there, little greenery all over. I might even, just because it's the closest one to me, I might even do a couple more dried oranges. Like I did. And maybe some sprigs of green up here inside, underneath, to fill up all the way up to that other shelf of my tray. Where might we see some green sticking out? Maybe right there. That's a good way for me to cover up where I got out of lines with the tan marker. And maybe even try to squeeze a little sprig somewhere behind. Like it looks like it's coming in here in between my cinnamon. You might could throw some on the top. I think I'm trying to weight my bottom down. Balance-wise, I'm trying to make that bottom tray look a little heavier, a little like it's a little fuller, a little more decorated. So I might just keep my greenery down to this bottom section, but you could absolutely throw some up here and throw a few sprigs out here, wherever you want to throw them. So there's been some time for things to dry. Let's bring the markers back over. And I'm just using, what is this one? This one's a Java, I think. Yep. This is the Java Duplex in their mild colors. It is not marked. It's a green color. It's just a green color. And I'm using the width of this to basically kind of go all the way around those. No big deal. Don't sweat this too much. I might even bring a few little flicks down. I'm assuming you guys can probably hear that my family is finally awake. There we go. There's a little greenery. I don't know. This one looks a little weird. Let me extend it out some. There we go. I feel like that's a little better. So I think I'm going to come back in with my reddish brown color. And just along these edges of my cinnamon, I'm going to throw a little more color there. Okay, so now they've got a little more depth. There's certainly a little more watercolory look. As long as you're giving these markers time to dry, you can continue to do that and layer and blend. And I'm going to go ahead and use it right there on my little orange slice, that reddish brown color. I just pulled a few strokes up through there, and then bringing back that lighter buttery yellow and pulling that color upward across there. I'll give that a second, and I might throw a little darker brown on there. This is where I might add my snowflakes. I'm just going to freehand these. Well, if you're scared of snowflakes, really quick, let me show you. Just draw a circle and then go from there. So I just drew a little circle to kind of give me a guide. You don't have to do that. I could have done this probably. I say that. I might have could have done this without having that circle as a guide. And I'm just putting some little arms on all of it. Same thing up here. Actually, I think I am going to make it look like it goes all the way across. Is this the circle I used? I think this is the circle I used. I hope it's the circle I used. I'm just going to do a little half circle there. And do the same thing. As if it's a pattern repeating off the edge or something. I don't know. I did that one a little weird, but I think it's okay. Same over here. Let's see how this one might work. Don't sweat it too much. All the little details together end up being cute. A few little dots around it. Same thing up here. I guess I will make sure they're even on both of them. I guess we'll go that way. Close enough. Let's see if I can get this little snowflake worked in around my straw and my other little details. It's a little stranger to figure out in this area where the snowflake might come off. But I'm going to wing it. There we go. I think that's okay. Okay, I can erase these little lines now. Okay, so this eraser smears ink, by the way. I love these, though. I'm going to be honest with you. This style eraser, because you can erase adhesive with this as well. And I used to get them online for like $5 a pop for these, and now Dollar Tree has them, and it just makes me super happy. Now we've really got some details going here. Now I can start adding where it looks like there's more shading. I keep trying to put the cap on this pen and it just will not go. I'm going to come in here maybe around that point. I might even come all the way around this point. Probably right here around that frame. And that frame, there's going to be a little bit of a guessing game together because I want to get this right here really black. And the only black that I know that I have used marker-wise that was a big marker that I know was safe is probably one of the Crayola knockoff generic kind of markers. So I have to hunt for that because I don't have one handy, but that's the only black I know that I've used pretty successfully. Let's see, is there any more details that I want to add to any of those things? I think I'm pretty happy with most of those. Now, I want to talk about shading. I keep gray highlighters handy for most of my shading. I got asked that yesterday about shading. This one right here is literally on its last leg. So it's super pale. I still keep it though because it works very good to do really, really, really light shading. I'm pulling out this other one. Look, none of these are fancy brands. It's just when they come out of a set, I pull the gray ones out. So I have them all in one place just for shading. So I'm going to come in here a couple places where things are sticking off this tray. And my rule of thumb is I usually go under what would be the bottom of that item. Especially on something like this. I'm going to go towards the bottom section of where that item kind of aligns. Maybe even throw some in around there. I don't know. I don't have a rhyme or reason to how I do that part. I just do. I just throw them in there and you see them and you perceive shadows. And I think that's good enough for me. Personally, I think I want to throw... I've got some oranges at the bottom. The dried orange look at the bottom. I think I want to go ahead and add that up here somewhere just to bring that color up. I don't know, because I feel like I can. Cool thing about doing it this way and not in a real tier tray is there is no way you get everything to stand out like this on a real tier tray, but we can prop as many items as we want to on this one. All right, I feel that's close enough. Where is my yellow? I'm going to bring that yellow and that brown. Throw a few little lines. Literally, just a few little lines through there. With that fine tip. And then I brought my yellow in and pulled that color up. Can you see how that just naturally shades that orange really easily? As far as shading goes, with my straws, and this one is going to be quite difficult because this straw is so super tiny, and I think that straight edge is going to be too difficult. This straw is super tiny, but any of my straws, I usually always bring whatever color the straw is. I try to bring that color down straight across the bottom. It's very subtle. I went across the white. I went across the blue. I'm going to bring in one of my white pens. I love white pens. And do the opposite at the top of that straw. I might, while I've got it in my hand, I might throw a little something across those cinnamon sticks. I don't know, just to do it, just to feel like I'm being some kind of extra. At this point, I think I can come in and do a little jaggedy something right there around this. Throw a few dots up here on my rolling pin. I'm going to add a little bit more around this part of the rolling pin. And you notice I'm just using some real squiggly motions and dragging that pen across some places. I have no method to doing that. I just get close to the edge and drag the pen. You can see. Now might be a time where you can come in and add a little more darkness to your rolling pin. If you're already using a darker color than I started with, this might not be necessary. But a little more color right down in this section, I think. Now I don't know where this came. I am so serious. I have no idea where this came from. I do not remember. It's the only one of these I have. But it is such a faint shade. And I'm using it just down these edges, a little bit of these white items. I might even do it here on my tray a little, on my tier tray a little, just to give the faint idea of some color. It's really faint. I don't even know if it'll show up on camera. It's such a faint color. But I just drug it down kind of a little, just a hair down those sides. Maybe I'll do it to make my marshmallows stand out. I could come in here and actually put some coffee there in my coffee cup. Now I feel like my wood grain here is not, there we go. It was missing a section. I'm just darkening some of these lines in some places. Just a hair. A little more scraggly maybe than I typically would. I want to come up here and drag some lines across the bottom of this thing maybe. Maybe just one or two dots up in the top of it. No big deal. Play it by ear. Fill it out for yourself. You might like the extra little line details. You might not. I'm just throwing them in there just for fun. I might even put a little X right here where it looks like the mitten is stitched at the thumb. You guys know how that looks when you look at the fingertips on mittens. So I'm pretty comfortable where this is. I need to find my black classic style marker, the kind of Crayola style marker. I feel comfortable trying it. If I make a mistake and it bleeds through, you guys will be the first to see. You'll see it with me. But this is where I'm at so far. All the coloring I've done on this. And let me scoot out a little. I grabbed this ratty, old, crazy art, generic. I have used these to write with on here. Never tried to color with it in black. I did December with a lot of black writing. So let's find out how this holds up. Let's just see. Well, so far, so good. Let's keep going. The ink is trying to pull right at the end. For as old as this thing looks, it is still really juicy. And they are old because my kids no longer use markers, and these came out of their marker collection. So let's find out what it did. Look at there. See, it really is about how you color with things. Let's see if I can get up in these tighter fitted spots. As long as you're not doing the scratchety, I'm going to give this time to dry, and I'm going to clean up those edges a hair. Since that's where the ink is pulling, that's where I would most likely have any kind of bleed. But it went just fine with my old raggedy crazy art black marker. It worked. I just colored all that in. Obviously this is going to be a chalkboard, or that's what I'm trying to mimic. So I want to give it time because I want to be able to go over it with a white marker and do my little artwork on it. This is the basics for the entire tier tray design. Now I might come in and just continue to layer out some colors, get the colors a little deeper. The more layers I go on this, the more this color starts to darken to almost this shade. And I'm going to shadow in a little more. And if you notice, I just randomly put strokes in. That's, I don't know. It seems to work for me. So let's let that dry. I think all the rest of the elements are where I want to keep them other than the chalkboard. I'm going to let that chalkboard dry really well. I'm going to turn around and do this very same thing on the other side, I think, and just change what's in my tray. I do think that I need to come in, though, with one of my grays and maybe do this area up here. It's not very dark. I might have should have put a little of that black on there. I should let it wait. Let it wait. Keep telling herself, let it wait. But that's where we're at so far. How cute is that? And this is a really nice size piece. Now it still left me plenty of squares around it, but this is a really substantial little piece by the time it's done. It's a let you see the full size of the spread together. You kind of see. Now you can see what I mean. Do you know how many stickers you'd have probably had to layer to get such a nice little, it would have gotten really thick with that many stickers, but now it's a nice little piece, certainly in a space that I typically don't get a lot of use out of. I don't write a lot of my weekend stuff down. We kind of play it by ear on the weekends for the most part, unless there's a special occasion that's up, but I usually have a lot of space to play with there. This is a really nice size piece by the time it's all said and done. And I know this gets long, but there's a lot of details in getting to this point. One of them being, let me grab my white pen again. I still haven't cleaned up the black yet, but I really only need to clean the black up around the frame. So I think I'm probably pretty safe with coming in with my white pen. I'm currently using a Uniball Signo. I also have Mr. Pen versions and the jelly rolls. I just happen to have a particular preference myself. I'm trying to find a circle for my snowflake, but you know what? I'm going to wing it. Let's wing it. So the center point would be right about here. And hopefully this white shows up really well on this marker. Maybe I gave it enough time for the marker to dry successfully and to get a really good white impression on here. You might have to go over it more than once. And if you can hear that in the background, my sons have deep voices now and they still don't have volume control on the depth of their voices. They're still learning that part, and it echoes through the house, even when the door is closed and everything else. Okay, I think this is not bad. It's showing up pretty well. Throw a few dots on there. I feel like maybe I should be seeing some things out that side. Them proportions are probably wildly off, but the general idea is there. It did. It showed up, honestly, really well on that classic basic style marker. It worked pretty well. Now I can come in. I would come in, honestly, I would just come in with a pen to try to clean these edges a little, because I do feel a little more accurate with my pen. So I don't know if you're seeing that, but where those edges of the marker coming up and down were a little less than smooth, I'm just filling them in now with my pen. Oh, that works out well. It cleans that edge up really nicely. Oh, isn't it just cuteness? Okay, a few more shadows. I feel like that needs a shadow behind it. I don't know. It didn't tell me it did, but I'm going to do it. And it's going to help where I got out of line when I did my little tan color. It'll help hide that tan color where it came out of line. I might even do a little shadow underneath here. And I still feel like I'm going to go in and throw a little black right there. Just a tiny bit. I just did a tiny bit right there. And I'm going to come back in really quick with that gray. And do one swoop. I don't want to do too many swoops because it might bleed. Look at there. There is black and gray and all those dark colors, and we are good. I am thrilled with that because I have not colored in a whole lot of things in black. There's not a lot of things that I usually have to color that are black. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling in some elements here. And I'll finish the rest and show you the final result. Or my final... Actually, you know what? You know what I want to show you? Do you want to hang out a little longer? I'm fixing to throw another element on here off of this. I'm going to use the chopping board really quick. So I had a fun idea with the chopping board. And I'm just going to use it over here. I feel like it fits in this space really well for one. And you saw, this is what I usually do. I just start with pen and run with it. I am offsetting this a hair. And I'm not going to completely trace it because part of this I kind of need to do by hand. But starting right about here, I'll retrace it and then stop right about there. Same thing right here. Because I want to get those edges to blend just a hair better. So I'm just bringing my line down just like that. I'm going to throw a few little scratchy lines. Bring this edge over a little bit. Throw a few little lines. Maybe we need to get a little closer for those details. Okay, got a little closer. I'm just going to do this in a few spots. Just throw a few of those lines in. If you didn't do a good job, like right here in these sections to meet it up, right here in this curve, I feel like it needs some lines. And I just did it all the way around. I need some kind of circle because I'm not good at these. This circle might be a little too big, but it's what I've got handy. So I did a circle, and then I'm doing almost like a half moon in that circle. I came over. I did like a half moon in it. And I might even throw some of those little lines in there as well. So now I have a cute little chopping board. I'm going to add some greenery because I told you it's like garlic. I feel like a little string there. And a drop down of some greenery. Okay, that one's cute. We'll do it the other way. Throw some down this way. That's cute by itself. You can take it a step further. I know that the holly leaves are almost out of season, but I'm going to use one anyway. Or I'm going to try to. I'm just going to throw one in here. So I'm just dragging those out and swooping them. There's no real evenness to it because you can't really see that well. But as I did that, I'm going to come back in and using that same crooked line, that same light pressure where it just drags a little bit of line across it. I did it like that. So I think the next fun thing that I would do with that would be, let's see if I can find a square that'll fit in here kind of decent. Find myself a little help. This square seems to kind of fit. I'll come down to here. I don't know. Let's go over a little further. Come down. There we go. Now it's like a little message board. I might put a little dot here. A little dot here. A little dot here. You got the main parts that I wanted to show, which was the tier tray, but the other accessories are fun. I'm bringing in that same tan marker. Guys, I'm telling you, I don't get all within the lines. I don't get it perfect every time. This one made it easy, though. When I put the little notepad there in the center, I don't have to color as much of this guy in now. So I'm even going to do it up here with the greenery. My greenery, I'm just coming in with the same highlighter. On the holly leaf thing, where I did that jaggedy little line, that little skinny kind of line there, I'm only going to color up to that point. I don't know why. That's what I wanted to do. It almost left it where the edges look a hair lighter. So let's get this greenery in. Look how cute that is. Obviously, I'm going to go in and darken the edges a little bit as this dries. But now I have a little spot that I can jot some things in there. The reason I wanted to go ahead and show this is because this will fit absolutely adorably inside any of the squares as a place to write. And I've tested that out. And I don't see where I put my little test piece. I wanted to share it, but you can absolutely write in there. You can see, here's an example. These are some other things. I will probably add these today, but I will not have time to put them in this video, but I'll have them next week because I want to use them again, because these definitely have room to write in them as well, because I did an example of that and it was super cute. I wrote an appointment in one of them and it made it a super cute way to stand out. So I have one thing I want to throw at you really quick, because I've been asked about this already. My hydration thing, whether it was a stamp or stickers. Okay, we all have something, or a lot of us have something like this. This one's a little large. I would have had to make my squares a little bit bigger. I have this one. This is for architects, I think. But it has one as well. This one's a little tinier. I have another one that is literally kind of right in the middle. If you see that, you can see it's been used a minute or two. So I do trace this part, but I'm not gonna lie to you. If you were to measure them, they're probably off. I just eyeball it. Literally, I just eyeball where they're going and hope I get them lined up. If I don't, it's okay. When I don't get them lined up, it kind of looks like raindrops dripping down, which is cute. But I'm just showing you this one so that I can give you an idea of what I do. So normally I do 8 because we're supposed to have, it really depends on your size, but typically they say 8 bottles or 8 glasses of water a day. So I do the little drop like that. And I come in with a blue highlighter, whatever blue you might vibe with, and just go down one side of it. And then I have my little drops. And I will fill this up. I'll do the same thing all the way across 2 rows so that I have 8 in each one. And that's what gives me my hydration section. My dinner section, I don't know. I might add a dot or a circle to right beside, you know, like a bullet point. Or I may just leave it blank. I've been labeling here. I'm going to show you a different way to do this as well that makes cute dividers. I just didn't want to do it for this month because I had these things mapped out. So next month maybe, or within the upcoming weeks, I'll show you another way to use your marker to get your division in your pages. Look how cute these are. So I'm going to go ahead and finish filling out and repeating these elements, the same elements I've showed you between this video and other videos. I'm going to repeat them on here, add my little squares, and then I'll show you what I got for my final result. So this is what I ended up with. I didn't take it too far because this was such a substantial piece. I really, really wanted it to be kind of my standout. You could take it as far as you wanted to. I finished out my hydration. I added a few squares. I highlighted a few dates. Mostly I just rotated those. Finished out my weather, and this is what I have. And I love it. I love the tier tray. Let's get a little closer so you can see now that it's had time to dry and the colors really mix better once they dry. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, there we go. You guys know what effort it really took to put into that. It wasn't that much. It just was knowing the steps and getting the steps. And that's such a cute piece. That's something you could continue all year around. I'll let you look. My little teardrop looking hydration areas are completely finished. My dinner plan is ready. Of course, I add details when I go in, when I'm getting ready to start things and write in these spaces. I might add a few more little doodles here and there. My weather's done. Those are all freehand. I don't have a stencil. I do. Honestly, I have a stencil. I have these stencils. They'd probably work, but I just freehand it because it's more fun that way. And I can make sure that it actually fits up in this little spot that I put for it. But this is it. This is the whole thing finished. I'm going to flip really quick so you can see what the end result on the back side is, because that's my biggest concern, is whether or not it's going to bleed through the next week. You can see I'm good, even with the black, all the colors, all the layers, the reddish browns, all of that. I'm still good. That's what I've got. I know this was long, but this was something I really wanted to show how to get done in such a simple way. I wanted to show how to color it in. Don't sweat the coloring as much as you think you should, because it all kind of works out in the end. It's all about just adding a few little things here and there, nothing major. I didn't show you anything super complicated. I did come in and add some of my little berries. I replicated that. I threw a little greenery down here, and I still might throw another little offshoot of greenery down here, but otherwise this is my finished result. I know it was long. I hope you had fun hanging out with me and playing around and learning a couple more doodles. And just understanding how pens and markers work on the Happy Planner paper. Maybe this will get you some ideas, even if not for January, maybe for next month. This would be super cute done with Valentine's stuff. I still really want to try that. Throwing some things in every single month that has that little bit of element, but it's a little hard to do sometimes when I'm trying to show new ideas, but I hope you like it. I plan to show you a few more doodle things and planner things as I go, as I learn. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.